It began with a single social media post, urgent update on Joyce Meyer Ministries. Within moments, the clip went viral. Joyce Meyer, the world-famous televangelist whose weekly broadcasts reached tens of millions, appeared pale and weary behind her signature smile. She spoke haltingly about unexpected challenges facing her ministry and apologized for distressing news that would shake the foundations of long-held trust. Viewers paused their scrolling. Could it really be true? Things aren't looking good for Pastor Joyce Meyer, and right now, nobody knows exactly what's coming next. Just 2 weeks ago, Meyer was an unstoppable force, fresh off a sold-out Focus Leadership Forum in Atlanta, interviews lined up on major morning shows, and an upcoming faith conference in London billed as Joyce's triumphant return. But behind the scenes, sources say, tension was mounting. Staff layoffs began quietly, as Meyer's flagship nonprofit restructured its publishing division. Employees familiar with the process report whispered warnings, contracts not renewed, benefits slashed, and a new memo urging belt-tightening measures across all departments. Then came the real bombshell. An external audit flagged unexplained transfers of more than $2 million from the church's building fund into Meyer's private holding entities. Rumors exploded. On Christian Twitter, #MeyerMystery trended as armchair sleuths dissected IRS Form 990 filings. One financial blogger calculated that Meyer's personal compensation packages ballooned 45% over the past 4 years, even as the ministry's charitable grants to shelters and disaster relief dropped by nearly 30%. Eyewitness reports at the ministry's St. Louis headquarters spoke of empty desks and frantic phone calls among senior pastors trying to salvage operations. Volunteers who once passed out gospel tracts now found locked office doors, and email autoresponders citing vacation status. Amid that chaos, Meyer's health seized the spotlight. In last Sunday's broadcast, she confessed to unrelenting fatigue and episodic vertigo, prompting speculation that her demanding travel schedule may be taking a toll. Her longtime co-host, Jay, appeared noticeably tense, cradling a tissue box as he attempted to segue to the next prayer request. Viewers noted the absence of Meyer's usual laughter, replaced by long pauses and a trembling gaze. Social media users snapped screenshots of her paling complexion and tagged friends. Did you see her face at 12:15? Pray for Joyce, but also watch closely. On the heels of those revelations came more disruption. Partners in Kenya, Mozambique, and India reported suspended broadcasts due to unpaid licensing fees. A senior producer at TBN, speaking anonymously, confirmed that contracts for Meyer's Spanish-language programs were abruptly terminated last Monday. Fellow ministers expressed concern. If she can't fund her outreach, how many souls will go unserved? Meanwhile, competitors circled prey-like. Smaller ministries offered Joyce Meyer-style leadership retreats at half price, betting that frustrated donors will seek alternative voices. Perhaps most damaging is the sudden exodus of high-profile trustees. 2 board members who once endorsed Meyer's vision quietly resigned last week, citing unresolved governance issues. Emails obtained by insiders reveal heated debates over transparency and the appropriateness of Meyer's personal real estate portfolio, 5 homes worth a combined $12 million. One trustee lamented, "When the pastor lives like a ministering billionaire, it undercuts the message of stewardship." Another warned that donors would think twice before contributing to a ministry that appears to enrich its founder at the expense of outreach programs. Within hours, Meyer's charity rating plunged on watchdog sites. Generous donors, accustomed to giving thousands to emergency relief, posted comments lamenting how their gifts now feel like handouts for a lavish lifestyle. On Reddit /r/Christianity, threads exploded with betrayal and anger. "I believed in her. Guess she believed in her bank account more. If she cared about the poor, she'd live among them." Even prominent televangelist critics, once vocal opponents, now offered reluctant sympathy. "No one should be stunned that power and money corrupt," tweeted one rival pastor. This is the next chapter of the American megachurch saga. As the fallout intensifies, FOMO grips longtime followers who fear missing their last chance to attend Meyer-style events before venues close. Conference operators report a surge in cancellation requests. Some donors demand refunds. Others convert tithes to credit on Meyer's publishing store, hoping to salvage their investments. Meanwhile, Meyer's team has hurriedly scheduled an emergency live Q&A for Friday night, promising clarity and confession. Yet skeptics warn it may be too little, too late. Trust fractured by mismanaged millions and hidden transfers is not easily rebuilt in a single broadcast. In our next segment, we'll dissect the $2 million in question transfers, interview former trustees who resigned in protest, and analyze the strategies Meyer might employ to restore credibility. We'll also explore how this crisis echoes past televangelist scandals, what lessons Meyer can learn from those who preceded her, and whether her audience will forgive or walk away. Stay with us as we peel back the layers of a story that could redefine modern ministry and ask the ultimate question: can Pastor Joyce Meyer weather this storm? The financial storm that has engulfed Joyce Meyer Ministries began with a routine watchdog review, but quickly turned into an unearthing of alarming anomalies. Late last year, an independent auditor hired by a major denominational oversight body flagged repeated transfers from the ministry's designated building fund into two separate Meyer-owned LLCs, JM Properties, LLC, and Heart of Faith Ventures, LLC. From January 2019 through December 2022, the audit documents show 16 wire transfers, each ranging from $100,000 to $180,000, totaling just over $2.05 million. What makes these transactions so troubling is that the building fund had been marketed to donors as strictly dedicated to church facility upkeep, campus expansion, and relief projects. Digging deeper, auditors discovered that none of those transfers were earmarked for maintenance or construction. Instead, JM Properties, LLC, received 7 payments that perfectly coincided with real estate closings on parcels purchased by the Meyer family. Public records now tie JM Properties to a 30-acre horse ranch in Franklin County, Tennessee, acquired for $1.2 million in March 2020, and a second 5,000 square foot residence in St. Charles, Missouri, bought for $650,000 just 2 months later. Heart of Faith Ventures, meanwhile, was the recipient of 9 transfers, which bank statements linked to jewelry and art dealers across Atlanta and New York, purchases ranging from custom diamond bracelets to original Picasso lithographs. When asked about the disbursements, the ministry's CFO claimed the transfers were loans from the building fund, to be repaid through future capital campaigns. But the audit turned up no repayment schedules, no recorded loan agreements, and no evidence of fundraising appeals specifying donor support for a repayment plan. Worse, approximately $250,000 of the so-called loan transfers were pinned off as administrative overhead in the Meyer family's personal tax filings. Financial governance experts call that practice reckless at best and fraudulent at worst. Inside the ministry, staffers whisper of backroom decisions that prioritized personal convenience over program integrity. Former Treasury Assistant Angela Martinez, who resigned in protest last month, revealed in a sworn deposition that the ministry's finance team was instructed to delay flagging these transactions until after a major fundraising push. "We were told donors had given more than $5 million to the building fund in 2021, she testified. Senior leadership believed they could smooth the numbers if they only delayed reporting the transfers for a quarter or two. As those quarters rolled into years, the cumulative effect ballooned, transforming the building fund into a gray area for personal disbursement rather than its intended charitable purpose. Donors who once tithed faithfully now feel betrayed." In an online survey conducted by the watchdog group Faith Transparency, 68% of respondents who had supported the building fund in the past 5 years said they would withhold future donations until Meyer's ministry published a full accounting. One longtime contributor, who requested anonymity, claimed she donated $10,000 in 2020 for a new orphanage wing in Mozambique, only to learn days later that none of those funds reached international relief programs. "It felt like a punch in the stomach," she said. "I believed I was feeding hungry children, not financing a private mansion." On Capitol Hill, the audit has even drawn legislative attention. Representative Karen Holt, co-chair of the Congressional Nonprofit Oversight Caucus, sent a formal inquiry to the Internal Revenue Service, demanding expedited review of Meyer's 2021 and 2022 Form 990 filings. In her letter, Representative Holt cited the audit's disclosures as potential misappropriation of charitable assets and warned that continued inaction could trigger broader investigations into religious nonprofits' transparency standards. Meanwhile, the ministry's own board of trustees is in disarray. Multiple members, once staunch defenders of Meyer's leadership, resigned quietly after internal attempts to obtain satisfactory explanations for the transfers were repeatedly rebuffed. One former trustee, speaking on condition of anonymity, described a fractured board meeting in January where questions about the transfers were met with stonewalling and deflection. He estimates that at least 24 high-level donors have pulled their pledges in the wake of those unanswered queries. Amid the fallout, fundraising events scheduled for the spring have slashed their sponsorship goals by 40%. Conference centers once booked solid through next year are now offering Meyer's team heavily discounted rates to fill seats. An ironic twist, given her sermons on trusting God to provide. Promotional materials for the upcoming London Faith Conference were already reprinted to emphasize Meyer's renewed vision for integrity and humility, but donors remain unconvinced. As Joyce Meyer prepares to face a public Q&A this Friday, the ministry scrambles to craft talking points that address both the health concerns and the financial scandal. Yet insiders say that no amount of strategic messaging can erase the hard evidence of those $2 million transfers and the broken trust they represent. Things aren't just looking bad for Pastor Joyce Meyer. They're looking like the most serious crisis to hit a major American church in decades. Until she offers a full, transparent accounting and restitution to the causes she once championed, many fear that the ministry she built may never fully recover. The controversy has rippled through every tier of Joyce Meyer Ministries, inflicting damage far beyond the boardroom. Local church branches report a wave of volunteer resignations and declining attendance. In Texas, the Grapevine campus, once drawing full pews for Meyer's Enjoying Everyday Life simulcasts, now sees empty rows and hesitant greeters. One longtime volunteer, Marcia Caldwell, described the scene. People come in, scan the bulletin, and leave. They say, if she can't steward generosity, why should I give my time? Similar stories emerge from satellite campuses in Florida and Ohio, where coffee fellowship is overshadowed by hushed side conversations about the audit's findings. Staff morale has plummeted. Insider accounts depict staging areas where silent tears replace the usual laughter. Staff meetings began with prayer and ended in glazed frustration. Mid-level managers, tasked with revamping budgets and crisis plans, find themselves caught between Meyer's loyal core supporters and the mounting pressure from oversight bodies. In recent weeks, 2 regional directors resigned rather than oversee further program cuts, posting LinkedIn messages lamenting, "I cannot help lead an institution that redistributes charity to personal ventures." Their departures underscore the tenuous position staff face. Uphold a founder's vision or uphold basic ethical principles. Meanwhile, partner nonprofits and international relief agencies formerly funded by Meyer's grants scramble to fill budget shortfalls. World Hope International confirms that a planned $500,000 donation earmarked for Syrian refugee support was halted last quarter pending clarity from Meyer's office. An executive director there noted, "We rely on our donors' trust and transparency. When that trust is broken, it's children who suffer." In India, a women's empowerment program funded by Meyer's ministry warns of forced staff layoffs unless emergency funding arrives, demonstrating how one scandal can cascade into humanitarian impact thousands of miles away. Legal repercussions now loom. The Missouri Attorney General's Charitable Trust Section announced it has opened a preliminary investigation into Joyce Meyer Ministries' financial practices, examining whether donor funds were misused in violation of state nonprofit regulations. "We must ensure charities operate within their stated missions," said an AG spokesperson. The investigation could lead to subpoenas, fines, or even removal of state tax-exempt status if the ministry fails to prove proper accountability and donor restitution. Other state AG offices are reportedly watching closely, ready to launch parallel inquiries. High-profile critics have sharpened their attacks. Former megachurch pastor and televangelist watchdog Gordon Blackwood published an op-ed in Christianity Today denouncing Meyer's selective disclosure and calling for an industry-wide code of ethics. "If we treat our ministries as personal empires, we betray the gospel itself," he wrote. Meanwhile, investigative journalists at the Daily Beast and BuzzFeed News have aired undercover footage showing empty warehouses stocked with branded books and trinkets. Unsold inventory labeled ministries assets, now subject to creditor claims due to unpaid supplier invoices. On social media, the backlash has been relentless. Hashtag Meyer Accountability streams posts from ex-donors demanding refunds, religious studies scholars dissecting her previous sermons on money and stewardship, and even ordinary churchgoers tweeting Bible verses on honesty. A popular Instagram account, at Faithful or Fraud, reposts Meyer's own audio clips preaching against greed, juxtaposed with screenshots of the audit's email exchanges. Comments range from sympathetic, praying for Pastor Joyce's healing, to scathing, a wolf in designer robes. In response, Meyer's communications team has launched a 3-part media strategy: health updates to reassure viewers she is physically recovering, spiritual messages emphasizing grace and forgiveness, and limited financial statements promising enhanced transparency measures. Yet public skepticism is high. Financial experts warn that piecemeal disclosures, such as summarizing corrective steps without releasing detailed transaction records, only deepen mistrust. Unless Meyer's ministry publishes comprehensive audited statements and formal loan agreements, critics say, the crisis will continue to fester. Not every reaction has been negative. A segment of her core audience views Meyer's ordeal as a test of faith. On Facebook faith circles, some followers call for prayer vigils and fasting days, quoting Psalm 46. God is within her. She will not fall. A handful suggest this is a spiritual attack rather than a governance failure, urging believers to stand by their pastor. However, denominational leaders caution against conflating spiritual warfare with financial mismanagement, emphasizing that integrity and stewardship reflects true faithfulness. As Sunday services approach, many congregations prepare for an emotionally charged moment. Sermons on Abraham's tested faith, Moses' leadership challenges, or Job's trials, each drawing implicit parallels to Meyer's predicament. Preachers face the delicate task of offering pastoral care while encouraging accountability, without allowing the story to overshadow the broader message of hope and redemption. It's a balancing act that could determine whether Joyce Meyer Ministries emerges renewed or unravels further under the weight of its own contradictions. In the wake of cascading revelations, Joyce Meyer Ministries has activated its most aggressive crisis management playbook. But so far, public confidence remains elusive. On Monday morning, Meyer's executive team announced 3 simultaneous initiatives: an emergency financial review by an outside CPA firm, formation of an independent governance council to oversee all future transfers, and a Donate with Confidence portal requiring real-time, online visibility of fund allocations. Yet when these measures debuted on their website and social channels, they drew more questions than support. First came the emergency financial review. Hired within 48 hours of the audit leak, Thorne and Gray LLP, a mid-sized accounting firm with evangelical ties, promised full transparency and a comprehensive re-examination of all ministry accounts dating back to 2017. Their preliminary statement acknowledged irregularities and pledged a public report within 90 days. But critics pointed out Thorne and Gray's prior engagements advising other high-profile ministries, suggesting potential conflicts of interest. In comments to Christianity Today, financial ethics expert Dr. Celeste Romero observed, "Bringing in a firm so closely aligned with ministry circles is akin to asking a fox to guard the henhouse." The ministry has since insisted Thorne and Gray's partners will recuse themselves from any matters involving personal compensation. Simultaneously, the Independent Governance Council, IGC, was unveiled. It comprises former state regulators, a retired nonprofit CEO, and 2 external board members from unrelated charitable organizations. Their charter: review all board minutes, tighten conflict of interest policies, and ratify any transaction over $50,000. The IGC issued a statement calling for ethical stewardship that aligns with our mission to serve the marginalized. Yet insiders say trustees engineered IGC membership to distance themselves from blame, assigning the council the tasks of retroactive approvals and public education, while preserving existing leadership's authority over day-to-day operations. One former trustee lamented, "It feels like window dressing, not true accountability." The third prong, donate with confidence, introduced an online dashboard where donors can track every dollar in real time, complete with PDF receipts and line item expenditure reports. In theory, supporters can now see if a gift intended for global relief actually funds shipments of rice instead of a private property purchase. Yet digital analysts noted frequent loading errors on the dashboard's expense tab, and multiple donors reported broken links when trying to view the building fund's balance. On Twitter, frustrated contributors wrote, "I'm glad they want transparency, but why can't I see my own gift details and donate with confidence? How about operate with competence?" Amid these operational fixes, Meyer herself prepared for Friday's Emergency Live Q&A broadcast, her first extended appearance since announcing health concerns. The studio set, normally bathed in warm neutrals, now featured a stern backdrop of soaring pillars and banners reading "Integrity Restored." Meyer's PR advisors crafted a script emphasizing vulnerability, opening with scripted apologies, segueing into personal testimony about her own misjudgments, and closing with bullet-pointed promises of corrective action. Producers rehearsed multiple question-and-answer scenarios, inputting likely queries into a teleprompter system so Meyer could address, "How will you repay the $2 million? And why weren't donors informed sooner?" Yet the Q&A invitation prompted mixed reactions. While some longtime followers commended her willingness to speak candidly, others accused her of scripted theater. A leaked rehearsal memo warned staff against hostile or unscripted questions, instructing them to direct any challenging inquiries to the ministry's official email. Critics seized on that memo as evidence the Q&A would be tightly controlled, rather than a genuine forum for transparency. One nonprofit ethics commentator wrote on his blog, "If you can't handle unfiltered questions, you don't deserve to claim full disclosure." Meanwhile, legal advisors have quietly recommended self-reporting to the IRS and state regulators to preempt potential fines or punitive action. According to an internal memo obtained by reporters, the ministry's counsel warned that failing to correct Form 990 errors and properly classify the $2 million transfers risked revocation of tax-exempt status. Trustees have tentatively agreed to refile 2021 and 2022 returns with corrected entries, listing JM Properties, LLC and Heart of Faith Ventures, LLC as related party loans rather than program expenses, but no formal IRS submission is yet logged. Public relations experts note that any delay or ambiguity in legal compliance will be exploited by watchdog groups and media outlets. One crisis PR consultant, speaking off the record, observed, "Joyce Meyer has the brand equity to survive one major scandal, but only if she moves swiftly, transparently, and humbly. Any perceivable cover-up or half-measure will fracture trust irreparably." His prescription: immediate release of audited financial statements, independent testimonials from IGC members, and a publicly funded restitution plan for impacted charities, steps Meyer's team is currently debating. As Friday's Q&A approaches, observers await whether Meyer will seize the moment to rebuild credibility or further entrench suspicion. One thing is certain: operational fixes alone won't mollify donors hungry for full accountability. In the modern digital age, faith communities demand not just promises, but verifiable proof, posted, public, and provable. For Pastor Joyce Meyer, the crisis management overture is underway. But until transparency shifts from spin to substance, things will continue looking very bad indeed. Meanwhile, the wider evangelical ecosystem is recalibrating in real time. Competing ministries, some of them longtime allies, are positioning themselves to catch former Meyer donors. One prominent megachurch in Texas launched an Acts of Grace campaign this week, promising zero overhead taken from building funds and live budget updates sent via daily email. Its senior pastor called Meyer's plight a sobering reminder that no ministry survives without accountability. Promotional videos emphasize small group stewardship workshops and an online trust tracker for every charitable dollar. FOMO grips donors who fear their gifts might vanish in opaque corporate layers. They're being told there's a safer harbor just down the road, at the same time. Finance bloggers and legal analysts both warn that unless Meyer's team accelerates restitution, her operational fixes risk looking performative. One well-known Christian CPA, writing on his Patreon page, argues that a full refund or donor credit option is the only way to move beyond the scandal. When people give because of spiritual conviction, they don't want flashy dashboards. They want their money to go where they expect it. Credit notes or refund checks send a clear message: we value your trust. That perspective is gaining traction among major donors who now demand a choice between continuing support and a partial reimbursement. Local congregations are responding in mixed ways. Some church plants under the Meyer umbrella have begun rotating sermon series on biblical integrity and the pitfalls of wealth. A small group in Central Ohio held a Truth and Reconciliation Night, inviting members to share how the ministry's challenges have affected their faith and finances. One participant, a nurse who donated her coveted bonus paycheck to Meyer's international relief efforts, stood to testify that this crisis has wounded her trust, but also opened a path for deeper discipleship in prayer, accountability, and personal giving. Other groups, feeling demoralized, have shifted focus to local outreach, redirecting budgets once earmarked for Meyer's events into community food pantries and youth mentoring. Within denominational bodies, leaders are convening emergency ethics conferences. The National Association of Evangelicals announced a Coalition for Stewardship Standards meeting next month, gathering pastors, lawyers, and nonprofit governance experts to draft a voluntary code of transparency. While some criticize this as mere industry self-regulation, others see it as a constructive step toward preventing future scandals. During a recent webinar, an NAE vice president urged ministries to adopt quarterly public audits and independent trustee councils as normal practice, not crisis response. At the press level, major Christian media outlets are finalizing a special report titled "Fallen Stars: When Faith Leaders Fail." The multi-part series will air next week, profiling Meyer alongside other well-known televangelists who faced financial or moral lapses. Interviews with ex-donors, former trustees, and theologians will dissect systemic issues, lack of financial oversight, celebrity culture in ministry, and the tension between pastoral care and corporate governance. Critics fear this framing could reinforce negative stereotypes about televangelism. Yet many concede the series' investigative rigor may also spur meaningful reform across the board. Perhaps most crucially, Joyce Meyer herself is under pressure to demonstrate genuine remorse and tangible restitution. Faith industry PR strategists recommend an apology tour beyond her flagship broadcast. Stop by local campuses for unscripted town hall dialogues. Invite independent moderators to question her on camera, and host joint church services with impacted partners, African orphanages, disaster relief nonprofits, offering them a platform to explain the shortfall in real terms. These face-to-face interactions could humanize Meyer's crisis, converting abstract scandals into stories of shared pain and forgiveness. Yet some close advisors caution against too many live events. If poorly managed, such forums could devolve into hostile exchanges, generating viral moments that further damage her reputation. Instead, they propose a phased approach. First, a written restitution plan published in full detail. Second, a series of professionally produced video testimonials from beneficiaries whose programs have resumed funding. And third, controlled Q&A sessions in small venues, guided by an independent ombudsman. This strategy, they argue, balances transparency with dignity, avoiding the pitfalls of unscripted confrontations. A.S. Meyer's ministry teeters on the brink between collapse and renewal. The stakes could not be higher. The coming weeks will test whether charismatic leadership and operational reforms can overcome deep breaches of trust. Will donors return once corrective actions are fully implemented, or will this scandal mark a permanent fracturing of Joyce Meyer's influence? The answers may shape not only one pastor's legacy, but the future of accountability in modern faith movements.